You are listening to Shameless Stories, and I'm Nicola Humber, founder of the Unbound Press, soul-led publishing company for magical women writing world-changing books. And we are delighted to be the sponsor of this podcast. So enjoy, magical one.
Welcome to this episode of the Shameless Stories podcast, the podcast that aims to lift the lid on all things relating to shame. And shame is an external emotion. It's always because of other people's external validation. We're always on this search for kind of other people to make us feel okay. And that's what I believe, that's how shame manifests in our bodies. And I'm really excited to introduce to you Trudy Simmons, who master networker extraordinaire, lives near me, which is great. I can't wait to meet you in person, of the Daisy Chain Group and the creator of the Doubtless movement, which I'm quite excited to hear about. So Trudy, tell me why you have joined me today. Why are we talking?
Partly because you told me to, because you put a wonderful post into a Facebook group that I run, and very eloquently explained what this was about and asked people to come and be interviewed. And I have a massive interest in how shame manifests and how it has for me through my life.
Yeah.
And I'm a follower of Brene Brown and how she talks about shame. And when I see the word, it has a visceral feeling in people. And so I think it needs to be talked about more so that there's no shame around shame.
Well, 100%. It's funny you mentioned Brene. Actually, the other day I reconnected with her Daring Greatly work again, because I mean, it came back around. I mean, I first listened to it back into 2017 or something. And it's like, oh yeah, it's so true. It's just about leaning into being vulnerable and, and not using, I mean, you're a networker, you're a marketeer, you have a business. Entrepreneurs, there was this whole kind of trend of leaning into that vulnerability and using it to bring in your clients. I mean, that makes me feel a bit unwell, actually. But I really wanted to bring people on just to really talk about their shame, their vulnerabilities, that, because when shame is talked about, it no longer exists effectively in my mind, because we're all sitting there going, me too, I do that, that's what happens, and then like it goes away. Anyway, waffling. You're going to find this with me. So tell me a little bit about your story and kind of what led you to creating your business, and obviously what Brene means to you.
Well, and it does absolutely start there, because I had this incredible a few things that happened kind of all at the same time, where my wonderful sister Jodie died, and she had cerebral palsy. So when she left, we were two little peas in a pod, and that level of grief I had never felt before. So that was a crux point of my life, and also that I lost my job in corporate, and that absolutely crippled who I felt I was and who I had had to show up being for a long time. And in all of that period of time, I was in counselling. I was for 10 years. I needed that much help. I did actually at that point. And in that, my counsellor said to me, "You have a massive sense of shame." And I thought, how dare you? I am strong. I cannot be faulted. I was a massive confronter, and that's how I showed up in the world, especially in my corporate career, of get it done, get out of my way, come up against people that would tell me things that I didn't want to hear. What I found in doing that is that, especially when Jodie died and I wasn't able to wear a mask anymore, there was no way that I could show up as the people or the person that each person needed me to be. I could only be me. And I, in that time, found Brene's TED Talk and heard that saying that vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's a strength, and that is courage. And it changed. It was like a click in my brain of everything that I'd ever known changed in that moment. And my sense of how I had to or felt like I should show up changed forever from then. And I, in my grief period, showed up with vulnerability. And what happened in that period of time was that I'd also started my business. And I found that I was attracting people to me because they loved my story and they loved how I was talking and they loved the personality that I was. And I have not changed from that day. I'm never, well, I try very hard not to wear a mask with different people in different situations because that is exhausting. And especially, I think, as you get older, you realize that you don't have to anymore. So there was just this whole cacophony, as I like to call it, of things that happened that gave me the ability to see my life very, very differently from how I had lived it for nearly 40 years up until that point. Yeah.
Wow. So it was, I call it a sliding door moment. It's almost like those moments in time where you take a totally different choice, or you make a different choice to show up in a different way. So it was that melting pot of losing your sister and leaving the corporate environment. I mean, I'm sorry to hear about your sister, first of all, but like the corporate environment, I mean, I describe it in my own book. I used to put on shoulder pads and heels, and that was almost like your armor. You kind of went in for battle, and like, I mean, I would never go near a pair of heels or shoulder pads ever again. Like, they got burnt when I left. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
It was crazy. I was talking recently to somebody about doing branding photos for a solo entrepreneur. And that when I did my first photo shoot, and anybody that knows me, I'm covered in daisies, I wear bright pink lipstick, I am vivacious, I'm often called vivacious and audacious. And I turned up to my first branding photo shoot in a black suit on a beach in Sydney. Now, thank goodness, the photographer that had known me for a year by then said to me, "What are you doing? This is not you." But it's how I thought I had to show up to be professional, to be taken seriously. And
Yeah.
it made no sense. And I also had a bunch of daisies. So I took the jacket off and I had a cream top underneath with a bunch of daisies. And I was frolicking around the beach. And all of a sudden, my brand was built from that because I could see who I was to other people, let
Yeah.
alone to myself. And that was magical. So absolutely, what a change.
That's so powerful, isn't it? Like, I want to pull on that thread a little bit, because obviously the Daisy Chain group, you help other entrepreneurs, is that correct?
Mm.
Yeah. So like giving coaching on things like brand photo shoots and showing up in your truest authentic self, which I'm really passionate about too. It's kind of, it's being okay with being who you truly are. And it does probably, I mean, I don't know about you, but I definitely found it took me a few iterations before I could really get comfortable and in kind of what I was showing to the world. And like, you talk about the mask piece. Does the mask come on every so often? Is that something that you're still kind of navigating, or is it something that it's well and truly gone?
The wonderful thing is that we are always learning.
Yeah.
And I would never say that I don't put it back on for certain situations, for certain people. But I know that I'm doing it and I know how I need to recover from that because there is a recovery.
Yeah.
And I'm also an introvert, which no one believes, but I am. So I know that I need to look after my energy when I'm around different people, different situations, bigger situations. So no, we're always learning. And I am one of those people that shares, probably overshares, when I am in the, so we talked about doubtless earlier. I am a person that I don't doubt myself, but I can doubt things that are going on around me and I can hear other people's doubts and that affects me. But it's not about the doubts that I have, it's about how we deal with it, how we move forward. So I absolutely have those masks, I absolutely have those doubts, but I then have the tools to be able to move forward from that.
I want to dive back into what you were saying about your shame story. So like you were incensed by this counselor who told you that you have this like shame.
Yeah.
What did that kind of, how did that manifest? What did that look like? What, you know, tangibly, like what was that attached to?
Right, that's a really interesting question because I was in a counselling session and I had a really bad back. And she said, your shame is showing up in your body. And that's why you've got a bad back. And I thought, how dare you say that? I have something wrong with my back. That's got nothing to do with how, so you can hear my voice change. It's got nothing to do with how I show up, who I am, how I deal with things. It was just anger, anger, anger.
God.
It makes no sense to me that I used to be or feel like that so often, like the world was against me.
Mm.
And so it showed up in my back, and my back got worse and worse, and I ended up in surgery. And so went back to her and said, see, I had something mechanically wrong with, mechanically, is that the right word? Doesn't matter. Structurally wrong with my back. So it wasn't what you were saying. It wasn't about what you were saying. It was, there was something wrong. And over the periods of time of working with her and working through things and the anger dissipating and dissipating, she wrote a book and she wrote a whole chapter on me and
Wow.
how I had dealt with this level of shame, because what I had done in how I was showing up was I had put this massive wall up against all vulnerabilities, all shame, all anything that was thrown at me that felt like it was a weakness to me. It hit a brick wall and it was not coming near me. And in doing that, I was blocking the good stuff as well. So
Yeah.
it manifested in my body. And I can absolutely see that now. And even now, if I get a bad back or something, then I have to think, what needs to change? What do I need to think differently? What do I need to do differently? How do I need to look after myself? Because sometimes it is structural, of course it is, but it is, it's,
Now I'm stretching my back
yeah, I
out.
know, me too. But it is a level of disease that we can bring on ourselves with the way that we are feeling and dealing with it.
Yeah, that's really powerful, because back pain is something, I mean, I've experienced. I mean, that's what manifested for me when I left corporate. I had vertigo. I
Mm.
had I'd literally twanged my back, so I was flat on my back for 2 weeks and still carried on working, you know, just like this. Like, seriously, like, why do we do this to ourselves?
Yep.
I think the universe was like, Sarah,
Yeah.
and you carry on, don't you? You think that that's what needs to happen. So with regards to the back, just going, you had surgery. How did that all kind of pan out? Did you do what I did and sit there and try and work through it, or did you actually surrender into?
Well, so me being me, doing things to extremes, I wasn't able to.
Right, okay,
I
so
wasn't
it's
able
proper
to
bad.
work. I had to take, I think it was 2 months off in recovery because I left it and left it and left it because I had such a high pain level, which you would think, oh, it's just such strength. No, what an idiot. I absolutely left it until I was so damaged that my disc had perforated my spinal cord, which is one of the most dangerous things that you can do. So I was emergency surgery. I was then they put 15 staples in my back, and I'm allergic to metal. So when they took the staples out, sorry, I was laid up in hospital for over a month, face down, whilst it all fixed. So
Yeah.
I wasn't able to. And even now, as I said, we're always learning. When I get to the stage in my business where I'm working, 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 and I forget to do the right things for myself, then I will get sick. And I won't just get sick, I will have to be, as you just said, laid flat, not able to work at all so that I rest. And I'm getting better, I hope, at not letting myself get to that stage anymore, because the only person that is suffering the most is me. So, and I don't want to. I love what I do. I love my communities. I love getting out and seeing people. I love the people that I help. And if I'm incapacitated, I affect them negatively. And in my life, my biggest thing is never to affect somebody negatively. That's my value.
Yeah, I love that. And you know, the fact that you really need to surrender into And I think the issue that I think there is a massive story around shame anyway when it comes to pushing on through. And there is an element of, well, if I don't get this done, then, you know, we can't become this person where, you know, everything hinges on us to make it happen. And you know, that's another shame story I have. It's like, well, I must get this done. It's, you know, it's been given to me. I must follow through on it. And it's like, well, actually, no, is it really mine anymore? Do I need to do it? It's like it's the lines of inquiry that we're never encouraged. I've felt a certain generation, we're never encouraged to kind of inquire as to whether we should be doing these things. Like, there is an element of you must do this. This is how you show up in the world, and this is your job. Therefore, you must deliver. But I feel like there's an element of, like when you're saying taking the mask off, as we get older, we get to this point where, hang on a minute. Is that making sense?
Yeah. I had a conversation last week with somebody who is, I think they were 29 or just turning 30. And I found myself saying, well, what you'll find now, I don't know why I go northern, in my day,
Yeah.
I'm 50, and the feeling when I turned 40 of the amount of care that I stopped giving about a lot of things, the amount of care I stopped giving when I hit 50. My business, I absolutely love it. I will keep saying that, but I do not show up in the way that I used to feel that I had to get everything done. And guess what? Everything gets done.
Yeah.
Just that I used to feel like I had to go 10 to the dozen. I had to be exhausted. I had to always be on the go, be busy. And now I get things done. I get it done in a time frame that suits my energy levels now, because I'm not 30 anymore, as much as I'd like to be. I still think that I'm a child inside, but it is important to realize that things change and that that's okay.
Yeah, 100%. And I think as well, like you're saying, we're not 30 anymore. But I look back at the 30-year-old version of myself and I just think, oh, Sarah, you didn't need to work all those hours. I mean, to be fair, that 30-year-old Sarah did play a lot as well. But I wish there's an element of, I kind of wish it would have been okay to not be drunk as a skunk the whole time. But then I realized the same thing as you. I'm an introvert, and people would have said to me, you don't appear to be an introvert because you're this PR person and but I find it super difficult to crack into new communities. I kind of need to be invited, and like I still have that there's this little girl that likes to go to the toilet with a friend situation on. And I'm not sure if that's a perimenopause thing or a midlife thing, or just knowing that I'm safe. There's an element of, and I'm dealing with this with my own daughters as well. I think it's just a thing. Like, we just need to be doing things together. We need to be in community. And that's, I mean, when I showed up in your community, I just felt really welcomed, and it was lovely because I'd been lurking for a little while. And I think this is a common thing with female entrepreneurs. We find these lovely little Facebook groups or these communities, and we lurk a little bit. And then we feel okay about showing up and sharing. And then sometimes we'll get tumbleweed and we'll think nobody likes us or nobody wants our stuff. And then sometimes you're met with this, I want to get involved. And I think that is like the work that you do with the Doubtless movement and the Daisy Chain group. I feel like that element, the welcoming, the fact that we need these spaces, especially as we get older, because like you say, we haven't got time for the bullshit. We just, want everybody to succeed. And I think there's an element of that that's what I really enjoyed when I was sitting in your group anyway, and like bringing that into the conversation.
It's the wonderful, so I've created spaces that I've always wanted, because I always felt like an outsider when I was younger, and then growing up, and then starting your own business, you've really got to find the right people that you want to be around, because otherwise it can be really isolating. And I've run conferences, business conferences for business women for the last 10 years. I've run network events for 15 years, in person and online, and the Facebook group. And it is such a privilege where people turn up in person, and they turn up and you can see the fear on their faces. They've just put themselves into a situation that they are not comfortable, but they've done it anyway.
Yeah.
And they turn up, and I'm that person at the door with a massive hug, unless people don't want to hug, but they have to tell me pretty fast because I'm quick. With a massive hug and a don't worry about a thing. Come in, you're welcome. Who can I get you to speak to? And for me, that feels like a massive privilege, because for them walking in there, and the fear and the anxiety and the level of shame that they may feel, just in that all those thoughts that go on in your head, the doubting yourself massively, and then you feel welcome, and then you're a part of something. And it is literally, as Brene says, that 5 seconds of courage, from that turning up, showing up, getting out of the car, each step, getting out of the car, turning up, walking in the door, getting
Yeah.
that hug, and then walking in and seeing other people and thinking, I'm not alone in this. And then you hear the conversations that go on, and people going, oh, does that happen to you? Oh, me too. And then that feeling of isolation dissipates so quickly, because you realize that you are not alone online or in person in the way that you are doing things. We are all in this together.
Yeah.
And it is finding the right group of people that you want to be around and that lift you up.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to stay stuck in the negatives of life. So find the people that lift you up. I'll keep talking a second, but when we're
No.
in COVID, when we had COVID, it was this weird period of time where I've got this Facebook group of 2,500 businesswomen, and I felt a massive responsibility in turning up and showing up for them to keep motivated. And the fear in all of us during that time, for health, for family, for elderly people, for disabled people, for our businesses, because some people absolutely took off in that time and some people lost their businesses. And I had to really manage that energy in the group of feeling like I want to be there for everybody, and feeling like the 2,500 people are sat on my shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, but I love that responsibility. I take that on board. But it was also a massive eye opener of what can happen when you have that responsibility, and when people are up and down in such massive swings. It was huge to show up each day for that.
Yeah. It was it was an interesting time, wasn't it? And I think that in itself, trying to navigate community when there were lots of different opinions and viewpoints, and yeah, all of that. I mean, I think community is what got me through, because I guess my personal opinion was very different to that of my family's. And it was, looking back on it now, it's like, what, 5 years ago? And we're just thinking, wow, so many people not only lost their businesses, but they lost their relationships, their friendships, because they let something get in between the cracks.
Yeah.
And
Just in you saying that, there was this, in talking about shame as well, there was a massive level of shame around celebrating.
yeah,
And
oh yeah, you couldn't have a
I really struggled with that, because I wanted everybody to celebrate these massive things that were happening with some businesses, product businesses, anybody that was making anything. They really started taking off, and I really wanted them to celebrate. But in that environment, it was so hard. They felt like they couldn't do it because they were so worried about everybody else that was losing their businesses.
yeah.
So yeah, it was a crazy, crazy period of time. But so now I in the environments that I create, I absolutely want everybody to celebrate the big things and the small. And we have to remember to do that, because I am still learning. But if we don't celebrate the small things, then the big things just go by the way. So Yeah, celebrating is an important part of moving through anything that's happening.
Definitely. And I think as well, like as humans, there is this natural, unfortunately, there's this natural kind of tendency to focus on the shit stuff, the
Mm.
fear, um, so there is, and also as women, there's still a bit of shame around you being loud and proud and coming out of the good girl kind of, she's good, be quiet, sit in the corner, don't say anything. And then there's this whole surge of women that have kind of just gone no.
Yeah.
And I think the world needs women to be more, they just need women to be more. That's the sentence, isn't it? It's the full sentence, because that's another thing that I've really noticed about in my communities and people that I've spoken to on the podcast is women are fucking amazing. We pivot like there's no tomorrow. Like we don't sit around, that business is collapsed, so I'm gonna go and start another one. It's amazing what women do.
Absolutely.
And having a space like yours is enabling that. There are, and I don't know about you, but since I left corporate, I just can't, the ideas are just constantly here. Like I'm like, yes, I can't get to you right now, I've got I've got this idea going on at the moment.
Yeah. I call that the tornado, when we as women have a tornado of ideas that are all going around and they feel like they're always in the air, always in the air. And what I help people do in business mentoring is getting those ideas landing, so you know exactly what to go and do next. You know exactly what you want to do. The most difficult question that I ask any woman, let alone businesswoman, is what do you want? And the first response is always, I don't know. Okay, let's get to what you actually want. And then I help to create the environment that they can work that out for themselves. So then they work out what they want. And then this tornado of ideas that feels like it's always been going around settles and they can focus. When
Yeah,
we focus on something, get out of the way, because that's when productive things happen, and when we feel like we're moving towards what we actually want to get done.
I guess another thing, just to like pull on that thread around business owners, female business owners trying to succeed. Well, obviously, what the flip side of succeeding is failing, right? So, is there something that, have you got kind of a go to when things don't quite go to plan, or how do you build resilience in business? And with the listeners, if they are trying something and it's not quite working, what would you say to those business owners?
Right, well, I would say read my book.
Love it.
Doubt less, do more.
Love it.
Less, do more. I wrote the book last year in 3 months. I wrote it in 3 months and published it in 3 months because I kept hearing from people about how much they were doubting themselves and getting in their own way.
Yeah.
And in that, I talk about failing, and I talk about the fact that I fail forward and I fail fast. So I couldn't tell you how many failures over the 15 years that I've had my business, but I actually couldn't tell you what they are because I've moved on. I have an innate ability, apparently it's not a normal thing, to be able to let go and move on. I do it in arguments, I do it in business, I do it, but if we hold on to all of this stuff, it is eating away at us, literally. So
Yeah.
I let go and I move on, and I feel very lucky, but also it has been a learned behavior that I have taught myself since coming out of corporate. And I've spoken to somebody about this, and they said, well, that's the wrong way of doing things. Like, you shouldn't let go. You should deal with the feelings. You should deal with the consequences of it. But for me, I've done enough of that. I just let it go and I move on with love. Bye. And so there's at least one chapter in the book about failing forward and failing fast, and that sense of resilience that comes from the fact that you've done it. The
Yeah.
fact that people call me, I'm a cross between Tigger and the Energizer Bunny. And when I think of resilience, I think of Tigger bouncing up and down his little tail. And that is how I do things. I'm like, I'm in this spot, something happens, and I go boing, and I'm off, off to the next. And it is joyful.
Well, exactly. Why wouldn't you want to live life like that? Why would you want to sit, in your wallow in it?
Yeah. Why dwell?
Yeah.
I've got too much to do with my life, with my business, with who I want to help, with getting things out there, with the conferences that I want to be able to put on for people so that they get the information that they need to do what's next. I don't want to dwell on something that's just happened that's going to hold me back.
Yeah.
No, not me.
No, I love that. Oh, I could talk to you all day. I think I'm going to have to. You're only down the road. So if there was anything you wanted to leave behind as any guidance, advice, here's your invitation. Have you got anything you'd like to leave?
Well, I'm asked often what's the one thing that I would tell my younger self, or what I would tell somebody that was starting their own business or is in business. And the thing that I always come back to is work out who you are and be that. I was told once, I was asked when I started my business, I started walking around in a black suit, who were you when you were 5 years old? And I said, I was a tutu wearing, dancing, singing 5 year old, 6 year old. And they said, where's that person? And it absolutely hit me. And I thought, oh my goodness. So now my branding photos are me in a tutu. And if ever you come to one of my conferences, I will do a lip sync battle. I will be singing and dancing, and it will be hilarious for all of you. I entertain. So that I would say find who you are and be all of that. Don't let anybody tell you that you're too much, you're too loud, you're too quiet, you're too whatever. Just be you and relish in it. Absolutely relish in it.
So, where can people find you?
TheDaisyChainGroup.com. There's also the Doubtless quiz. If anybody wants to go and do that, that they can find out what is holding them back. And then there's little worksheets of little things you can go and do something differently from that place. So absolutely go and find the Doubtless quiz on the daisychaingroup.com.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on, Trudy. I've really enjoyed our chat, and check out the Doubtless book as well. I think that is going to be powerful reading. So thank you again for coming on, and thank you for listening to Shameless Stories. We'll be back next week with another episode.